Judges 19 verse 1 to 10. And it came to pass in those days when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite staying in the remote mountains of Ephraim. He took for himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. But his concubine played the harlot against him and went away from him to her father's house at Bethlehem in Judah, and was there for 4 whole months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak kindly to her and bring her back, having his servant and a couple of donkeys with him. So she brought him into her father's house, and when the father of the young woman saw him, he was glad to meet him. Now his father-in-law, the young woman's father, detained him, and he stayed with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and lodged there. Then it came to pass on the 4th day that they arose early in the morning, and he stood to depart. But the young woman's father said to his son-in-law, "Refresh your heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward go your way." So they sat down, and the 2 of them ate and drank together. Then the young woman's father said to the man, "Please be content to stay all night, and let your heart be merry." And when the man stood to depart, his father-in-law urged him, so he lodged there again. Then he arose early in the morning on the 5th day to depart. But the young woman's father said, "Please refresh your heart." So they delayed until afternoon, and both of them ate. And when the man stood to depart, he and his concubine and his servant, his father-in-law, the young woman's father, said to him, "Look, the day is now drawing toward evening. Please spend the night. See, the day is coming to an end. Lodge here, that your heart may be merry. Tomorrow go your way early, so that you may get home." However, the man was not willing to spend that night. So he rose and departed, and came opposite Jebus, that is Jerusalem. With him were the 2 saddled donkeys. His concubine was also with him. So there's a lot of water in here. So I'm gonna go verse by verse and tell you what I gleaned from all of these. So in the first verse, it talks about he was a certain Levite man. So the Levites were known for loyalty and responsibility. They were known for leadership because they were the one who were entrusted with service of the tabernacle of God. So when he married a concubine, it was the culture of the time, right? Where, like, right now, a concubine could be compared to with, like, a girlfriend. You're not married to her, but, you have kids with her, and, yeah. So, the concubine ended up cheating on him. That's in verse 2, right? And she went back to her dad. She went back to her father's house for 4 whole months. So, what was interesting to me there was the pain that the man had gone through, You're finding out that your woman cheated on you, and then, you don't just pick up and move on with your life. No, he went through the normal human emotions, and he ended up having to swallow I wouldn't say his pride, but swallow the emotions and decide what he wanted to do. So somebody told me that you choose between your pride and love. You choose between wanting to be loved and love, and wanting to love. And I think he also chose to love. So her husband went back. He went to the father's house and went to go get her back. Basically convinced her to come back with him, and she ended up saying yes. And the father-in-law told him to stay. In New King James Version, which is what I'm reading, it says the father detained him. And in King James Version, it says that the father retained him. So according to the Strong's Concordance, the synonyms for the word retain is strengthen, prevail, harden, be firm, become strong, be resolute, and encourage. So I think that when he retained him, he saw how heartbroken he was. He saw that, there was still pain that he needed to let go of, which is why when he stayed, they ate and drank and lodged in King James Version, because what I do is I use both King James and New King James Version. Sometimes the words, I'm not saying that they're not accurate, but you get more meat using King James Version, as well as it being backed up by the Strong's Concordance. So, in King James Version, they use the word tarry, which means pass the night, abide, remain, grumble, complain, murmur. So the father could see that, the son-in-law's heart was still heavy from what he had gone through, the fact that he still needed to come. He still came back as a man, coming back to come get your wife. That must be very trying. And luckily, he had a father-in-law to complain and to grumble and to murmur to. So he did that. He complained and he grumbled and he murmured about his pain and about what he'd been going through. And his heart, and he was merry at the end of it, because he was able to leave his heart, or leave his troubles and his grumblings and his complainings at his feet, which means that he didn't pick them up, but there was still hurt, which is why in the coming verses, like the fourth day, when they arose early in the morning, the father still said, refresh your heart with a morsel of bread and afterward go your way. And then he said, please be content to stay all night and let your heart be merry. Like fathers, I think men can see pain in other men in a way that women can't see pain in men. Sometimes we have a problem of always talking too much, always wanting to be heard and be seen, always making things about us, which is why men find it easier talking to other men. It shouldn't be like that. We should be the comforter to our men. However, things like that do need time, and they need healing, and they need, due process. There's a process to things like that, especially when you came from a background of always gossiping and always running your mouth to your friends. And especially when the person who's supposed to be your comfort hurt you, it's kind of like hard to go back to that and try to find comfort in them. So luckily this man had his father-in-law. I still say that because there is safety in counsel. There's comfort in counsel. There's guidance in counsel. And that's what the father-in-law did for his son-in-law, which I find so beautiful. Sometimes men don't have that relationship. Sometimes in-laws don't have that kind of relationship with their sons-in-laws and their daughter-in-laws. I luckily have relationships like that. And sometimes it even with your parent, you don't have that kind of relationship. But yes, it's a beautiful thing when you do have that kind of relationship, because you are able to open your heart and leave your heart at their feet. And because they're older and because they've had like better experiences or different experiences, they are able to see the pain in you and tell you how to heal the hurt. I find that so wonderful. I find that so beautiful. there's something else that I wanted to mention. Just give me a second. I think, you know what? I think I'm going to address it as we go. It's going to come. I think I should just let it flow. So, verse 6, they sat down. The two of them ate and drank together. Then the young woman's father said to the man, and please be content to stay all night and let your heart be merry. So when the man stood to depart, his father-in-law urged him. So he lodged there again. Urged. I wondered why he used the word urged. Then I remembered that, this is what I wanted to tell you. I remembered that around those times, Solomon was their last judge. When Solomon fell for Delilah, and Delilah betrayed him, and then he died, that was the last king or judge that the people of Israel had around that time. So people like Micah came, and they had gods and graven images and molten images that they prayed to, and the Israelites took the molten image and the graven image that Micah made. Hold on, let me just confirm, because I don't want to say just graven image and molten image and then I'm lying. You know what I mean? But yes, he did have a molten image. Yeah. Yes, he did have a molten image. Yes, he also had a carved image, which is basically a graven image. Yes, he had a graven image and a molten image. So yeah, I wasn't lying. Thank you, God. Yes, so what I was trying to say was around that time, there was no law. The people were their own law. They departed from God and his teachings. They departed from God and his ways. They departed from God's voice and his chastening. That's the right word. His chastening. So everybody did what they wanted. And when they took Micah's graven image and molten image and the prophet that he paid, which was another whole thing that I wanted to address some other time. I'm like, this is so meaty, I couldn't even let it go. Yeah, watery. It sounded weird in my head. It's so watery. It sounds good, but it also sounded weird in my head. So what I was saying was, the people of Israel ended up taking the graven image, the molten image, and God's prophets that Micah paid, and they worshipped the graven image and the molten image. And that was the house of Dan, which is another whole story that needs to be unpacked. It's so interesting. Yeah. Okay, getting back to the story. So the reason why the father urged him to stay, it wasn't just because it was getting late and they'd been having too much of a merry time and he was enjoying them. It's because he knew his neighborhood. He knew the people that were around there. He knew how dangerous that place is. So he didn't necessarily tell them. There's no way where he told them that, you know what, it's dangerous out there. If you leave now, it's quite dangerous out there. I don't want you guys to get hurt or anything or have to lodge with somebody. And he just used the comfort of, stay here. This is home. This is where you are welcome in, you've been here for 4 days already. Just, relax. You go. And he decided to stay. So the 5th day, he woke up early. He was ready to leave. And the father delayed him. They use the word delay here. Yes, they use the word delayed here. It says, so they delayed until afternoon and both of them ate. So, in Strong's Concordance in the KJV, they use the word tarried, but that was another Hebrew word for delayed. Yeah. Linger and wait. Yeah, linger, wait, and delay. Yes. So another the first tarry were the words that I told you about, but it was in Hebrew. It's another word. It's called loon. Yeah, and that's how we differentiate what they mean. We refer to the Hebrew words and Strong's Concordance. So the father told him, it's getting late. This is the time that the father actually relied on. It's getting late, you know. They should stay the night so that his heart can be merry. Again, he could still see that the son's heart still needed counseling, but the son wasn't really into that anymore. Like, he felt like he said all he needed to say, but an elder's eyes sees more than we think that they do, even though we know what the truth is. So I think this is what we do with God as well. Hey, God says, wait, let me teach you a little something. Don't go out there yet. Let me teach you a little something. You'll learn. My time is not your time. Be patient. And we're like, no, I got this. And then you realize that your way was not the way at all. You needed to follow God's way. So silly. Anyway, let's continue. So the father said, look, the day is now drawing toward evening. Please spend the night. See, the day is coming to an end. Lodge here, that your heart may be merry. Tomorrow go your way early, so that you may get home. So he did give them leeway. You know, in South Africa, in the Pedi language, it's we like saying the sentence when we say we're leaving or you can leave now. When we say you can leave now, we're saying which basically means I'm letting you go, I'm freeing you, I'm loosening you. So yeah, it sounds deeper in our language. And when I read that, I was like, yo, they're freeing you and they're even telling you what time you can leave, which means that you are still free to stay here and finally just let your heart be at peace. Because the previous times you were murmuring and you were grumbling, and your heart was easy because you were murmuring and you were grumbling, but it wasn't, you didn't let go, you just complained about it. And have you noticed that when you complain about something, you feel better, but not all the way because you didn't let it go? You know what I mean? This was the same thing for this man. So I'm gonna continue. The man was not willing to spend the night. So after they ate, after the father tried to convince him that, you know what, stay, he didn't want to stay. He just took his his concubine. He took his concubine, he took his donkeys, and they left before the sunset. So we don't know how long it took. I think the sun was still up, but the sun hadn't set yet, right? So he was confident because his donkeys were saddled. Which means that there was food for them, there was food for the donkeys. You know, they were fine. So he knew that wherever he was going, he could provide for who and what he came with, right? But the story is deeper. I read the rest of the 2 chapters, and they were just they need me to just take it one day at a time because they were so deep. So just to give you a little preview, they found a place in Gibeah, which is just an area that was full of Benjamites, right? And I don't like thinking about this story, and I know that we're gonna have to come back and eat the meat that's here, but they didn't want to welcome him in Gibeah. They didn't want to welcome them in Gibeah, and he finally found a lodging place. And I remembered a lot after what happened there. But hopefully we will make time. I will make time. I'll make time to come back to this chapter, no matter how hard it is to come back to this chapter. I'll come back and we will read it together. So thank you for reading this word with me. I pray that you got something here. I pray that you understand that where there is no leader, chaos ensues and people do what they like. I hope you find counsel in the Lord, in His Word. I pray actually that even in this little piece of meat that we ate today, in these little waters that we drank today, you will still be able to find counsel in the Lord and pick up where you can see His traits, like the father-in-law's counsel, and you can also see where we fall short, like the impatience that we have in something that we want, that leads us to something different, whereas we could have been patient and we could have just let the safety of the parents' counsel lead us to a much safer route. Yeah, I hope you have a great day. I hope you're having a great day.